Alright, welcome back to the 55 Buick build. Now that we are done with the transmission crossmember, the next thing to do is engine mounts. Now I have a selection here. Don't need that, that's my steering shaft simulator. So, a few options. First option is the factory Silverado engine mounts. That is not going to happen. Not in this situation. So I have two other options. One are these that I bought online. Not much money. Under 40 bucks, which is a price that is not worth even making mounts for that price. That's a good price. It's cheap. I like these because these are really beefy, and I think that would work really good. The other option is these plates. These are normally used when putting an LS style engine into an older GM vehicle, and these these let the bolt up to the factory LS block, and then you use a Chevy style mount, and these are quite adjustable, which is pretty cool. My only concern with these is they're made of aluminum. I don't know if they would handle the horsepower or if they would bend. I don't like how they have this relief machined into them. I think that's for using the clamshell type mounts, but that makes them very, very thin in that area. So I don't really like that so much. So preference is to use these. I just have to see how they look on there. My only concern is steering shaft. So whatever I get to work on the driver's side will work on the passenger side, no problem. But the driver's side, I'll probably have to notch whatever mounts I make, because these are not going to work. They're not going to be long enough. I know that. But whatever pieces I have to fab up to mount to that will probably have to be notched to clear the steering shaft. These, I think, will work without notches. I've even looked at reversing them. They're marked driver's side and passenger side, but they will bolt up on either side, and you can actually do that to push the motor mount to a different position. And I think if I had the mount more in this area rather than this area here, I think it'd be much stronger. And this is a solid style mount, and this is a factory style rubber mount. These are inherently weak, and they do break, and that's why they have this locking tab here, so if it did break, it would not come apart. So what I've been doing forever when using these mounts is I use a driver's side solid mount and a passenger side rubber mount, and then I've never broken one of these mounts. They work great. But that'll only come into play if I use these blocks. So I want to use these, really do. So first I'm going to bolt that up to the block and see what that looks like as far as clearances. So here's what I'm looking at. I have my mount on the block, and my steering shaft is right there. I'm using my handy dandy extension here. My steering shaft's going to be something like that. So I'm thinking of making kind of like a sweep bracket that'll come off the frame and curve up. Usually I make, straight across type triangular type braces, but I think a sweep type will work better in this situation as far as steering shaft. If I keep the mount low, my steering shaft should be able to clear, whereas if I make something that goes high across this way, I'm going to crash right into the steering shaft. So just one of the things you have to deal with when you do this kind of custom stuff. So I'm going to get some cardboard and make some pieces to see if it looks feasible. All right, first step of motor mounts, real high tech. Cardboard cutouts. And those, you just make a mount out of cardboard. Look at that, real high tech. It's gonna work just fine. The two halves for this side, and they will work on the other side as well. I just have to do trimming for the steering shaft, but we're gonna do this side first because I am all out of U-joints for the steering rack, which is really strange because I thought I had plenty in stock, but I do not. So got that on order. So we're going to cut this out of some steel and get these in. First piece is made. Flat plate. Where did I get it? Where do you think? This is the frame section left over from the C10 pickup that I got the rear suspension from. Don't throw anything away. It can be used. All right, so I'm gonna bolt those to the engine. See what that looks like. Okay, there's the first pieces bolted to the engine mount and jammed up against the frame for welding. One little tip. Those are not just bolted straight up against the mount. I put a washer in between. Let's see if I can get up in there. There's a washer between the rear mount plate and the actual mount. Reason for that is, well, this is not permanent, right? You got to take the engine in and out. And if you leave a little bit of a space like that up in there, it's a lot easier to install the engine or take it back out. If you weld this up tight against the mount, it just makes it real tight, and then it's harder to fly the motor in and out if you're changing it. And they do come out, so we're gonna do that. So this will be the first part. Weld those to the frame, and then I'm gonna come back and box it in. And that'll be it for this side. All right, get moving on this now. Okay, so the sides are welded on, and there's my next cardboard template for the bottom. Weld that in. Probably put some speed holes in it, just so it isn't a total water trap. I'm gonna weld a piece on the top as well, but you know, moisture can still get in there, so probably put a couple holes in there just to keep it so it isn't a total dirt and water trap. Next piece of the puzzle done. Brace welded to the bottom. Speed holes, because speed holes are cool. And then I'll put a piece on the top too. Obviously not as long, so that the mount can get out of there. But that bottom piece I put in will actually also work as a little shelf for the mount to sit on. So it's pretty beefy mount. Maybe it's overkill. I don't know. I don't think you can overkill this kind of stuff. But that's all I can do on this side from the bottom. Next will be this side. And going to be a little bit of a challenge here because of the steering, with the steering right there. And I have in my pile here that I'm working from. See here, I was gonna do something like this. This looks like it would be something like that, and then the same thing on the other, well, not the same thing, but another, obviously another piece similar to the other side on this end. I just don't know if that's going to be strong enough with that metal cut out of it like that to clear the joint. I don't know if I need that much. The problem is, like I said, I'm out of 3/4 48 spline joints, so I got to get the U-joint put on the steering rack there so I can actually get some clearance. Another idea I just thought of a little while ago is just to make a plate to bolt to the block and shift this whole mount further back toward the rear of the car. Or even toward, I don't think I can go toward the front because that'll just put the back of the mount near the steering shaft and then get in the way of the power steering. But I think even if I move this mount back only a, you know, 1.5 inches shifted rearward, I think I could just run straight flat steel mounts like I just did on the other side. So after looking at this mount pattern here that I'd have to use to clear the steering side, that's no good. Not going to work that way. So what I've done is I found a piece of aluminum in my scrap pile, and it's real thick. This is like 7/16 plate. Heavy stuff, good stuff. And aluminum's nice because it's easy to machine, and this is plenty thick, so easy to put holes in it. So what I did was I made a plate that will basically shift the engine mount rearward. So the bolts that go into the block will be here and here through the middle of the mount, and then these holes on the sides here on either side for the mount I tapped for 3/8 bolts. So basically this this mount is going to bolt to this plate. The plate will bolt to the block, and it will shift the mount rearward and away from my steering rack. And then I should be able to make full patterns like this, like I did for the other side. So let me get that bolted together and see what that looks like. So there it is mounted up, and that is going to work out very well, because now grab my fake steering shaft here off the bench, and attaching that to where it's going to go up to my steering column. When I do that, now I am way behind the mount, which is what I want to be. Still waiting on the U-joint for the steering rack. It's on order, but now I made some more patterns here for this to, that'll be just like that. And then the front one, similar design with no notches needed to clear the steering shaft anymore. So that is going to be perfect. So next to get those cut into metal and get that welded up. Moving along on the driver's side mount, the main pieces are welded in, and I'm just tacking in the support piece for the bottom with the speed holes. Get that welded in, and that should be it for the motor mounts, at least from the bottom. I'm going to put a plate on the top once the car is down, and after this I think the next project will be steering. So go over how to change that steering column that I cut off and turn that into a double D shaft 3/4 inch, which is the standard. Usually 3/4 or 1, but I always use 3/4 because it's a little easier to fit the smaller. And make the steering connection to the rack, which is now in front of the mount. And I should be able to get a straight shot to the steering. And if not, all it's going to be is a very small notch in this area, easier to see from the top, but I think it's going to work out just fine, much better than it was. So thanks for watching, and after this one we'll get into the next small project of the big project.